Welcome back to our New Deal podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Nicole. And this week we're about 3 weeks into the Biden administration. So we're just going to go over a few of his major policy areas and just talk about what we think about what he's done so far.
Where we're going to start today, we're going to start with COVID 19, biggest topic out there. And Biden did a lot with COVID 19 in the executive orders. So, Nicole, I'm going to let you take it underway. How are you feeling about what Biden has done in this policy standpoint?
So honestly, I'm pretty fully supportive of him in this area. Like, COVID policies, that's the biggest area that I think is the most important right now. In general, I'm always saying like environmental policy is so pressing, we need to start it right away. But COVID is something that we can't wait on. Like, things need to be done now, and I feel like we've waited a year to take the action that we really needed. So I feel like the mask mandate, everything that Biden is enacting right now, it should have already been done. So I support it because it's overdue, and I hope that he continues being really aggressive with his COVID regulations, getting the vaccines out, enforcing masks pretty much as we can in public. Um, and I think that executive action is really the first step to getting this under control and to sending a good message about what we should be doing to protect everyone from COVID.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'm pretty for Biden on this. He brought back the president's councils of advisors on science, and that's like just crucial. Knowing that he has a good team with Dr. Fauci, and Dr. Fauci even admits that he feels so much more comfortable under the Biden administration. He doesn't have to lie, but he can just say the actual results behind all the COVID. And having the mask mandate is important. I think that's something that should have already been happened, especially on federal buildings and passing out vaccines. Biden admitted that Trump did not really have a set plan on the vaccines, especially when Biden came into office. So it's nice to see now that we're in February, people are getting vaccinated, and it's not at the highest rate we would like it, but it's at a fast enough rate that it is possible, and he's sort of on track for the 100 million at the end of 100 days. So now that we looked at that COVID policy, we're going to go to probably one of our biggest things, and that's going to be the environmental. We love the environment. So let's go over and look at the environmental policy.
All right, so for environmental policy, I feel like this is an area we're both passionate about, but we might disagree a little bit about how we feel Biden is doing so far. So everyone is talking about rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. That's kind of like the most publicly talked about environmental area. And for me, I think it was good that he did it, but really not enough at all. I feel like that was absolutely the bare minimum. Like, the US is the largest historical carbon emitter, so for the fact that so many other countries were in the Paris Accord and we weren't, we needed to be in it, but it's definitely not enough. And I hope that Biden doesn't use it to say, like, oh, look what I've done for the environment. He needs to take much bigger steps to combat climate change. So I think that the Paris Accord was good, but definitely like the first step in a huge amount of changes I'm hoping he makes.
Yeah, I'm hoping as well that Biden makes great changes ahead, and I think he will. But I think this is a great first step, rejoining this Paris Accord. And however, I do believe that some countries should contribute to the research and all the funding as much as the United States has. And France actually, a French court just ruled, I think it was about a week ago, that France wasn't doing enough in accordance with the Paris Climate Accord. So that's going to be interesting to see France actually start putting in and stepping up their game. We have to fight climate change as a whole nation, like not a whole nation, but as all nations come together under one unity, because the environment is going to affect everyone around us. And staying with the environmental policy, the Keystone Pipeline, it got shut down. Well, the work got shut down for it, and I think this is great for the environment. Getting rid of those fossil fuels production and like that transfer of oil and possible oil spills and everything about that. However, the one I guess flaw that kind of lies with it is the relationship with Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I have no clue if that's gonna like hurt the relationship, because I know the pipeline does go through Canada, but I have a feeling Justin Trudeau will understand the environmental impact and hopefully not hate Biden any more than he might.
Yeah, so I also think that shutting down the Keystone Pipeline work was really important. I also feel like there's been like a lot of propaganda around it, like people saying, "Oh my God, 11,000 jobs were lost." And I'm not saying that it's good that those jobs were lost, but actually those workers were seasonal or temporary workers, so they were expecting for their jobs to be terminated pretty soon, whether the government took any action or not. So I feel like to use the job loss as a reason for why Biden is so horrible and he shouldn't have done this is really not valid. Jobs come and go. These workers expected to lose their jobs in a few months just based on the nature of the work that they were doing, and I feel like this was a really important step for the environment. So yeah, I definitely support Biden in this area.
Yeah, and to add on to that point, I mean, it does not even like stand in comparison to the millions of jobs lost due to COVID at the beginning of the pandemic and even throughout the whole pandemic itself through the Trump administration. So I think you can really take a trade off of some environmental benefits to a few thousand jobs lost that were technically not even secure jobs. There was only I think it was about like a select few, even under 2,000 jobs that were actually permanent on that pipeline. The rest were all just temporary contractors, and those jobs have fields everywhere. They're always looking for people to work. So those people who lost their jobs are going to find new jobs a lot faster.
Exactly, and retaining jobs is important, but in the end, jobs are always changing. Like a lot of the jobs that were around in the first half of the 20th century, they're just not here at all anymore. Like things change. And another thing that is changing is the transgender military ban. So Biden recently repealed that as one of his first executive orders. So Zach, what do you think about that?
Um, it shouldn't even be a discussion here. And if it wasn't for the conservative opinion of a 5-4, this act executive order would have been deemed unconstitutional, but it wasn't because Trump had the courts in his favor. The amount of transgenders willing to join the military is actually double than the amount of the general population. And I understand the transgender community is a small portion, but that shows that they're willing to sacrifice our country. As much as me personally, I would not want to join the military, I don't think we should ever condone or even condemn people discriminating from the military. We should have everyone who is willing to sacrifice for our country fight for our military.
Yeah, and so obviously I've talked about how I don't really support our huge amounts of defense spending, but while the military is such a hugely funded, like massive entity in the United States, I think anyone that wants to join it should be able to, and this is just blatant discrimination to me. Like I don't think Trump ever had a valid reason for starting the military ban. I think his main reason that he cited was medical costs, but he hugely overestimated the cost of a gender transition surgery. I think he was almost 10 times over the amount that he stated with like no evidence for why
Yep.
he said it would cost, $200,000. So he was just totally off, totally inaccurate about what he was saying when he started the transgender military ban. Um, so actually, in 2016, government spending for medical care for transgender troops was estimated to be between 2.4 million and 8.4 million, but the government is spending so much more than that on other medical care for veterans that we just don't even consider. So I feel like the cost was not a valid reason at all, and Trump was using inaccurate statistics on that.
Yeah, I think one of the better things about that was that Joe Biden wanted to track down all the transgenders that were kicked out of the military and changed that charge on their record from dishonorable to honorable. It just shows a lack of respect from Trump in that accordance with the LGBTQ plus community, and it's helping Biden get those voters definitely.
Yeah, yeah, I just think that was just blatant discrimination. I'm really glad it's been repealed. And finally, we're going to move into foreign policy, which is kind of a broad area, but Zach, what are your thoughts on it so far?
So foreign policy deals with a lot, and I'm gonna focus what I said back earlier with the United States joining the Paris Climate Accords and even rejoining the World Health Organization. I support that. I think we all got to work together, fight COVID and fight climate change. I think we should revert to a more isolationist viewpoint as a country. I'll let you speak your opinion before I go really deep into that one.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not as like well versed on foreign policy, but I also agree that we shouldn't be meddling in other countries' affairs. Like we haven't fought a defensive war since World War II, so why are we still spending so much on defense spending? I think we should take a step back and focus on domestic problems. But
Yeah, so when it comes to like what I view is you're right. We don't fight defensive wars. We're always on the offense. Iraq, we invaded. Afghanistan, we pushed in there. I think we just need to kind of focus on ourselves. Politically speaking, our country is damaged. The Capitol riots that happened, first people to invade the Capitol since 1812, and these people were Americans. So I think we need to focus on bringing our country together as well as assisting other countries that are in desperate need, not countries that we think are in need for our own personal gain.
yeah, I think our priorities in terms of foreign policy are pretty warped, pretty messed up. So I'm glad that some steps are being made to change that. Um, Biden said that he wants diplomacy at the center of foreign policy, which I think is really important. We should be focused on mending relations instead of starting more unnecessary wars. So, again, a step in the right direction. Let's see how far he takes it.
Yeah, another thing that I like that Biden has is he's opening those borders with Mexico again and helping families grant asylum. I think immigration is a key part of just American history. We're all immigrants here. We're not all 100% American. We're 25% this, 35% that. We come from so much. So I think we should keep doing that. And these immigrants are going to take the jobs that are in need, and that's going to help stimulate the economy and actually get it back up to pre-pandemic times, which it already is. It's already even a lot higher now.
Yeah, I'm also glad there's going to be more open borders. I think that immigrants are really beneficial to the economy. They pay taxes. They, as you said, they take unwanted jobs. So they're doing things that other people aren't willing to do to support the economy. So I'm really glad that there's going to be more open borders and more people coming in to make the country better. Um, Another area of that is the Muslim travel ban, which is something that I'm really interested in. And again, I think it was really just blatant discrimination um, in terms of why Trump did that. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I know you're big on the ban. I'm pretty big on the ban too. Um, just it's just pure racism and discrimination, and not all Muslims are terrorists is a really big key thing. And I think that him just banning any Muslim from those countries to come in, because there's people who need help from those countries who are stuck under that rule, and that is a major problem. Those are mainly the refugees that are trying to come to America, and they're not getting granted anything because of their religion and what they believe in. But I know you're pretty strong in it, Nicole, so I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I just really couldn't wrap my head around the reason why Trump would ban Muslim travel specifically. And I do think it comes down to racism, Islamophobia. Like there's no evidence that it's actually a security threat. Since 9/11, this is from Time, so let me cite my sources there. Since 9/11, white supremacists and like far right extremists have been responsible for almost 3 times as many attacks on US soil than Islamic terrorists. So why aren't we taking more aggressive policies on that? And actually, the ADL says that 73% of domestic extremist related terrorist fatalities were also from far right groups. So, why aren't we focusing our attention on that? It's just racism that caused the Muslim travel ban, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, and I definitely agree with you there. And it always sucks to end an episode on a little bit of a heartbreaker, but you're 100% correct. White supremacists and far right groups have just been really damaging to society. I mean, as we saw in the Capitol riots, 5 people died, but that's 5 more than who should have died.
Yeah, and we were talking about how terrorism, it's an interesting label that doesn't have a clear definition. Like, why aren't we labeling these far right groups as terrorists as much as we should? And so, I don't know. I think we really need to reevaluate the way we see hate crimes and domestic terrorism in the U.S. Again, to end it on a positive note, I feel like we both agree that we are taking steps in the right direction. I'm interested to see how Biden's administration continues with what they're doing, and I hope they become more progressive and take the steps we need to make America a little bit more equitable.
Yeah, as well as becoming a progressive, I think Biden's main key point is unity between the nation. And it's going to take both Democrats and Republicans to fix the nation and pass good executives legislation, getting COVID back on track environment. It's going to take us all, not just the Democrats, not just the Republicans. So as always, we thank you for watching our New Deal podcast, and we hope you can tune in to the next episode, which is going to be in 2 weeks. As always, I'm Zach.
And I'm Nicole.